Okay. All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Crafting a Strong Resume and Cover Letter Workshop. My name is Bolo Atifa, and I'll be one of the panelists for this event. Thank you for having me. Um, okay, so a little bit about me. I was raised in Nigeria in the U.S. I'm currently living in Baltimore, Maryland, the U.S. I'm studying at Morgan State University, and I'm majoring in civil engineering with a minor in environmental engineering. And I have around 2+ years of work experience in the field. Um, and my full name is Bolu Atife, but you can just call me Bolu. All right, so let's get started. So let's talk about some key points that make a great resume and cover letter. So first up is a good resume and cover letter is the first thing that makes a strong first impression. These are often the first things that a hiring manager sees. So you want to grab their attention and keep things clean, easy to read, and focus on your strength right from the start. Next, we're going to be talking about showcasing your unique value. This is your chance to highlight what makes you stand out, whether it's a special skill or achievement or experience that no one else can bring to the table. Another important point is you want to demonstrate that you are the right fit for the role. So you want to align your background with the job description and show your skills and experience so like it matches up for what the company is looking for. A good resume and good cover letter also sets the stage for the interview. So these are the documents that the hiring managers will be given. So these are what they're going to be talking about. So it's important to make sure your story flows well and gives them enough to be curious about when they want to meet you or when they want to book an interview with you. And finally, remember that these documents give you control over your own narrative. Okay, so you get to decide what parts of your experience and skills you want to highlight. This is your chance to tell your story, your background in the way that you want it to be told. And yeah, so those are just some important points before I get into the nitty gritty of the importance of like the resumes and the cover letters. So we're gonna get into the structure, like the typical structure of a resume. I'm just covering the most important sections. So first you have the contact information. This is pretty straightforward. You need your full name, your phone number, your email address, and if you have like a LinkedIn profile or any link that can bring you to like a business account, you can post that too. You can include that in that contact information section. Just make sure to keep it simple. No need to add your country if you're in the US. Just state the city and state you're in. Um, next up would be sorry, next up would be education. So you want to list your school's name, the degree you're working towards, and the degree you or the degree you're working towards, the degree you've completed, in your major. And if you're still in school, you don't have to include a graduation date. But if you're finished, you might want to. Um, in the education section, you can also add your GPA. So this is optional. And I know some of you did your, I'm assuming some of you would have done your undergrad in Nigeria. Just remember that Nigeria goes off a 5.0 GPA grading system, while the US does a 4.0 grading system. So just make sure that if you're applying for jobs in the US and you're putting down your GPA, make sure you convert it to the US grading system. And I'm pretty sure you can just find that anywhere online for a good conversion. And even if you converted it, usually people only put their GPA like when it's like really good. It's not mandatory to put it or not put it, but I guess it's all about preference. But usually you just put your GPA if it's like really impressive. And and if your job asks for it, because most jobs might not. So it depends on the job. And if you've taken any courses that are really relevant to the job or you received any academic awards, the education portion is a good place to put those achievements and awards. The next section of your resume should be your work experience. So this section should be in reverse chronological order, meaning that you start with your most recent job and you work backwards. So for each role, you include your job title, the company name, and the dates you work there. Under each job, you use bulletin points to describe your responsibilities and, most importantly, your accomplishments, and focus how you impacted the company that you worked in. And usually, when you're putting down work experience, you want it to be related to the job that you're trying to apply for. So, say, I'm sure a lot of us have had a lot of jobs. Let's say, for me personally, um, when I go out for job interviews or when I go out to apply for jobs, it's usually around the civil engineering, field. So I don't put, my McDonald's role when I was working in high school, or unless I was lifeguard, unless you have absolutely zero experience in the field that you're applying for, that's when you can put those other jobs. So at least the company knows that you've had some type of work in the work field. Obviously, everyone has to start from somewhere. So not all companies expect you to have the experience, especially if it's for an internship or if you are a grad student just getting your first job in the field. It's completely okay to put those type of McDonald's jobs or warehouse jobs. But if you already have experience in the field that you're applying for, make sure you just fill that work experience with what's related to what you're applying for. So next would be the skills. This is where you can list any technical skills, language proficiency. So I'm sure some of us might be bilingual, so that would be a great place to put your skills in that. Any certifications or software tools that you're skilled in, you definitely want to add that into your resume. And anything that's relevant to your job is pretty much okay to put in the skills section of your resume. And if you've worked in any projects or research, whether it's an academic project, a personal project, or something you've done outside of work, that the resume is a great place to show that off, and be sure to include what the role you had in that project and the outcome of those results. And then lastly, or I guess not lastly, then we have the extracurricular activities. So this could include any leadership roles in clubs, sports, or volunteer work. Employers really like to see that you're active and engaged outside of work, and you're actively being in the leadership roles and donating to communities, because that just adds a huge plus in your resume. So they see that you're not just someone who goes to school and goes to work, you have a life outside of work, and what you're doing outside of work still shows about your character. So employers really care about that. And lastly would be the references. So as you see here, I said available on request. So you don't need to list them. Some jobs ask for references, some jobs don't. So it's usually preferred if you just put at the end of your resume available upon request. And just make sure to have that on you, because some jobs are really strict about that, because they want to know how you were in your last job and more about your character. So I have an example of my resume. This is just an example. You guys don't exactly have to go off what I do. Every resume is different. Everyone has a different style, different font. But I just wanted to highlight some key points about my resume. So the first thing is it's clean and not cluttered. So it's easy to read. It's not, too bungled up where everyone's just like lost. You can easily see if they want to see my education, it's there. If they want to see my work experience, it's there. If they want to see my skills and interests, it's there. So it's also straight to the point. And like I said earlier, I am studying civil engineering. So the work experience that I listed mostly has to do with civil engineering. Like I said, if you don't have any experience in that, you can just put any job you worked in. That's completely fine. And one thing I definitely want to highlight is the fact that it's one page. I've seen a lot of students have multiple page resumes, and employers really don't like that, because you have to think about you're not the only person applying for this job, right? So they have thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of resumes coming in to a company. The hiring manager just wants to be able to see quickly, okay, who is this person? Where do they school in? Where do they work in? What are their skills easily? They don't want to be having to be flipping pages. I'm sure a lot of us have, a lot of jobs throughout our lifetime, but try to keep it to one page and one page only. Another thing is you want to have, your own personal style, be a little unique. Like I said, this varies beyond person to person. My own personal unique touch was over in the top left corner, you can see like my signature, my full name in red. Nothing crazy. I even know someone who did like a ribbon on the resume. It doesn't have to be anything too actually, extravagant, but you do want your resume to stand out compared to all the other resumes being submitted to a company. So just add your own little unique touch that can just kind of make it stand out. Another thing I want to point out is this vertical style. So as you can see, the way it's set up, it's going education, work experience, skills, and interests. So some people like to do education, work experience, skills, and interests. So um, what my professors have told me is that usually companies be nowadays, at least in the US, like this type of layout. Again, like I said, it varies depending on the company, depending on the person. I'm not saying your chances of using this style will be higher if you use another style, but what I've been told through my professors that I want to tell you guys is that usually this type of vertical style is mostly preferred. And that's usually what I see when I'm asking my professors, asking my friends, usually that type of structure. So again, it depends on you and it varies. So now let's go into the structure of a cover letter. So a good cover letter should be concise, it should be engaging, and should show your enthusiasm. So here's how I would personally break it down. So first, you have the header. This is pretty similar to the top of your resume. You want to include your name, your contact information, your phone number, your email, and then the date. Make sure it's clean and easy to read. And the next would be the greeting. So always try to personalize it if you can, because a note about a cover letter, you don't just have a one cover letter for every single job you're applying for. You have a different cover letter for each job you're applying for. So it can be tedious, but this shows like your enthusiasm into applying for the job. So every cover letter will be different for each company. You know, you can't submit the cover letter you did for, let's say, McDonald's to a target to a warehouse. You know, so every cover letter has to be different. So always try and personalize it. And if you know the hiring manager's name, try to address them directly. Even though you can start off by saying, "Dear hiring manager." And if you don't know their name, you could just be like, "Dear hiring team." That works as well. So the next thing would be the introduction. So you can start by mentioning the job title that you're applying for and where you found the job listing. Then briefly express your enthusiasm for the role and how your skills make you a great fit. You want to grab their attention right away and show you're excited about the opportunity. For the body of your cover letter, the first paragraph can just highlight your relevant work experience and skills that match the job. You know, think of it as like an elevator pitch. And for those who don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's where if you had your hiring manager and both of you were in an elevator and you had to pitch them why you should be interviewed, why you should have the job, you know, in that specific amount of time you get from one floor to another, you only have so much time. So keep it brief, but also give enough information to where they can see why you want the job or why you're fit for the job. So just keep it focused on your background and make sure all the points you're making is what would make you an ideal candidate for the job. Um, you can also add a second paragraph. It is optional. If you feel like there's something important you want to mention, maybe extra qualifications or even some personal motivation behind why you want the specific role, you can add another paragraph. This gives you a chance to go beyond just qualifications and show a bit of your personality. And then you have the conclusion. So in the conclusion, you just reaffirm your interest in the role and express your desire for an interview. Mention that you will follow up and you want to leave them with a sense of excitement that makes them want to interview, that makes them want to see you. So just make sure your conclusion just basically regurgitates what you said throughout the whole cover letter. And then of course you have a sign off. You know, you want to keep it professional. You could just say sincerely your name. So I would be like, okay, sincerely Bolu, and make sure to keep it polite and professional. So that basic structure of a well-written cover letter, it can really make a big difference in getting noticed. So really take the time to personalize it and make sure you're advocating for yourself and you're showing the employer your enthusiasm. So again, I have another example of a cover letter. Like I said, for the resume, everyone's different. It just kind of catered to your own unique style. But the main points where I just want to like point out is that you want to focus on your employer's needs. You know, be concise and clear. Again, show your enthusiasm so they can be excited for you to have an interview or to have the job. Highlight your key achievements that have to do with the job. And like say, if you don't have any achievement that has to do with the job, just any key achievements of yours that show them that you have initiative, that you have drive, and that you're a hard worker. And use active language. So just make sure to have at least these 5 points, and you should be good. So again, I just made like a cute little mock up. I didn't even put like my name like just for the top. Like I said, just make sure everything is good grammar wise. You definitely don't want to have any grammar mistakes because that plays a huge role. That means that if they see any spelling errors, they see, okay, clearly this person just rushed it. So always, always, always make sure to proofread your resume and your cover letter because those are really important. And now I just have some key takeaways, for the whole slide. So just tailor your resume and your cover letter to yourself. You want to customize each document for the specific job that you're applying to. Like I said, if you don't have any experience in the work field that you're applying for, just honestly add whatever you think that will show that at least you're somewhat of a hard worker or that you have experience in any type of workforce. Don't be scared to highlight your achievements and your key skills. Focus on the relevant experience and accomplishments and quantifiable results. So, like I said, if you did any research projects or any projects, period, that slightly have to do with what you're applying for, make sure to try and implement that into your resume and your cover letter. And the third one would be show enthusiasm and show how you're a good fit. Really express your genuine interest. Don't forget that these people that you're sending your resumes to, they are human, and people can kind of sense off vibes and energy. So if they can see that someone is really passionate or really enthusiastic about applying for a job or working for them, they might see, maybe I should like get this person for an interview or hire them. So don't be afraid to really show how passionate you are. Don't think it's lame or corny. Definitely just wear your heart on your sleeve. If you're really enthusiastic about it, employers can see that easily, especially when it comes to hiring managers. That's literally their whole career. So they've been trained to really sense that type of vibe if you're really enthusiastic about the job. And lastly, probably one of the most important ones, proofread and edit. Always double check errors and ensure your documents are clear and professional. Like I said, it would really make a huge difference to a person whose resume, is grammatically correct and the structured okay to a person who isn't. Like I said, that could make or break your chances on getting an interview or getting a job, period. So yeah, all I have to say is a great resume and a great cover letter can open doors and put in the effort to stand out. So do what you can, really work hard on both the resume and cover letter. Don't be afraid to add your own unique style and unique touch to it. And just make sure it's all authentically you. Try not to lie. Please don't lie on your resume because a lot of companies do background checks for that reference portion that I mentioned earlier. A lot of companies do follow up on that. They do call back your old where you worked before. So be sure if you're putting any references, make sure it's with a company that you had a good experience with. Because obviously, if you had a bad experience with a company, you put it on the resume, and the new company you're looking to work for ask for a reference, and then they call them back, then that old company is talking bad about you, which would kind of push that new company to not hire you. So make sure if you're going to put references, it's with a company that you have a good standing with. And that's all for me. That's all I have. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, I'm here, and so is one of my colleagues, Gwen. So if anyone has any questions, oh, man.
There are questions on the Q&A session, so just click on
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gwen. My question is, are they similar to CV? Yeah. So the CV is the cover letter. The cover letter and resume, they're two completely different things. So I don't know if I can go back to my slide that I had here. So like I said, this your cover letter is basically a direct personal letter to the company that you want to get an interview from. You're expressing your enthusiasm to get an interview or why you want to work with them. Your resume is what that you just send out to most any company. Like that, you really don't change unless you're applying for a different job in a different field. Like I said, your resume is your resume. That pretty much stays the same if you're applying for different jobs in the same field. But for your cover letter, that is completely different. You create a new cover letter for each company that you're applying for, regardless if it's in the same field or not. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, and for the cover letter, can a person make it form a formal letter, for example, writing a sender's address and a receiver address? So usually, from my own experience, you don't really put any addresses, only because usually when companies ask for cover letters, it's either they're asking you in person or if you're applying online. So there'll be a section where you upload your cover letter. So it's not like you're sending it in the mail. Usually when you're applying for jobs, if it's not in person, it will most likely be online. So there'll be a section of your application process where it'll ask you for a resume. Then there'll be a section of your application process where it'll ask for your cover letter. Usually you just upload it. So no, you don't need to put anyone's address. The only thing you do need to put in your cover letter that has to do with address is kind of your location. So like I said, I put Baltimore, Maryland, or I put Bowie, Maryland. So it gives the employer a good idea, okay, where's this person? If I want to hire them, are they in the same state I am, or if not? So that's what I have to say on that. Any more questions? Do I have to type the question? Oh, no. Can you use your image on the cover letter? Usually, I would say no. Personally, I've never seen any image on a cover letter. I have seen some people put their like profile picture, like a good professional profile picture, on their resume, but not on their cover letter. But I don't want to say that's not something you couldn't do, but I just don't think that's a very common thing. So I would say. So I would say preferably if you don't have to, don't. But for your resume, I know some people do put their images on the resume. Um, What are the nuances in writing a resume or a cover letter for scholarships? Okay, Gwen, I don't know if you want to take this one. I don't know if she's in here, hopefully. Gwen, you want to say something?
Hi everyone, I'm Gwen. I work with Bolu. Um, so what are the nuances in writing a resume or cover letter for scholarships? I would say if you're writing for scholarships rather than a job, it's important to focus mostly on education, not necessarily the work experience you've had. And a big thing that can come in here, like Bolu was talking before about having referrals, it's a good idea to ask teachers and professors, especially those who you really excelled in their class or who are teaching something that you're interested in as a field. And this also applies to work resumes, asking them to write like a letter of recommendation for you. Um, a lot of scholarships require one of those also. Um, so yeah, and I would say focus on your educational achievements. Say, like we were saying about GPA before, if you have an impressive GPA, that'd be important to include. And if you have extracurriculars that have to do with school, like clubs and other activities and sports, sometimes those are
I,
important for scholarships as well.
Thank you, Glenn. I hope that answers your question, Paul. Any more questions? Make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Nope, I don't see any more questions. All right. Well, I mean, I can stay here for another 5 minutes unless
It
anyone
looks
has
like we have
any
one
other
more
questions.
question in the chat, Bolu. That says,
Okay.
how long should my resume be? So Bolu had this on another slide that it's a good idea to keep your resume as concise as possible, preferably to have it on one page. If it goes on and on and on, people don't really want to sit there and read all that. So it's nice to have just the important things, very like clear on a short page. So as short as it can be while still including everything that's important.
Yeah. Because like Gwen said, employers really don't like really long resumes. That's what. Could you share your resume template again? I could definitely. Let me go back to. Like I said, this is just a template. This is just that's actually my personal resume that I use. In the real world, again, everyone's is different. So don't think, oh, if my resume doesn't look like his, then that's just not what I should use. So I hope you guys can see it. Make sure it's in full screen. So this was my personal resume. Like I said, again, I have my education work experience, skills, and interests. Like Gwen said, I had it one page. I obviously have worked many more jobs than you see on this list, but I kept it concise to where I only applied the work experience that has to do for what I'm applying for. And of course, up to my skills and interests, you can, I don't know if you guys read it, but you can see that I put crocheting, I put I'm bilingual, I put like AutoCAD, some other stuff that has to do with civil engineering. So, kind of show my personality a little bit. So I hope you can take like a screenshot or I don't know. Oh, bad. Sorry.
I
Let
have
me
one
know
more
if there's another
thing
question.
to add on this. And this kind of relates to the other question about scholarship resumes.
Mm,
Something that is on my personal resume, I'm a biology student, so anything specific that we've done in class, for example, like different DNA tests and things like that, not to get too like complicated, but anything that you've learned how to do it in a class that could relate to the field that you're going into or the scholarship you're applying for, just specific things like that could be good to put like in the skills and interests section of the resume.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you see, I see the TR-55 hydrology modeling. So that's actually something that I just did one time for a homework in one of my hydraulics class. So it's not like I was that professional, but it was my professor who was actually like, "You guys are doing this for homework. Put it on your resume." So even if it's something like Gwen said or something like what I said, if you've done it in class, definitely just put it on your resume because technically you have done it. Now, if you're having an interview and they're like, oh yeah, we need someone who's very proficient, well, you also have to be like honest. So just say, yeah, I've done it in class, but I'm not like a 10 out of 10 expert. So make sure you can put it on your skills and interests, but don't try and like act like you're professional because then when you get hired and you've only had such little experience and now you don't know what to do. So make sure you're putting it on your resume, but also being honest, at least when you get to the interview portion. That's a good point. Okay, I'm just gonna check the chat. Sorry, I can't see the questions while I'm here. Um,
Yeah, there's one more question about how to tailor your resume for a specific job or industry. So kind of similar to what I said before, since I am a biology major with a focus in environmental studies, I have asked professors of those courses to write recommendations for me. I've put specific things that I've learned in classes on the resume, things that could come in handy later. A good way is to just write some experience in, like whatever the thing is that could be useful. Um, yeah, and like Bolu was saying earlier, putting the jobs that are relevant, putting those first on the first page and keeping it concise to just what's relevant to the field that you're applying to.
very true. Oh, I can't see the chat name. There's another question. Is there a way where I can share? Because someone's asking me to share it. I would, but is there like a link I can put? Let me see if I can just even share the slide with you guys. I don't mind. And also one point, another point I just want to make, a good software to make your resume will probably be Word. I know some people use Google Docs. I don't know. I find Word easier because I feel like it has more tools that I can use to really perfect it to how I want it to be. So I would recommend Word to actually make the resume. Um, but let me see if I can share the slide with you guys.
Okay, while Bolu is sharing these slides, I'm going to answer some more questions from the chat. So somebody said for college applications, asking questions about extracurricular activities. So typically for college applications, you don't have to submit a resume. This mostly is just for job applications. So when you are submitting college applications, they will often have a section to write your extracurricular activities in, and often they ask for supplemental essays, which also could be a good place to showcase the skills that you have that might not necessarily be strictly school related. Say you are in the soccer club and you had a great experience in soccer. That could be something that you add in a supplemental essay. Um, but yeah, and I think you don't usually have to submit a resume for college applications. So yeah. Um, and this one about cover letter. So usually, again, for applying to schools, you won't need these kind of things. This mostly goes for work opportunities. Typically, schools will send you or like will have in their application specific instructions of what you'll need to submit.
I also see another question about what can I do if you don't have any work experience. So if you don't have any work experience, that's completely okay because as we all know, people have to start from somewhere. Just try and add skills that you have, anything that you were doing in school or anything you were doing outside of school, because I think it's pretty much understandable that everybody has to start from somewhere. So it's completely okay to not have any work experience. Just try to add like extracurricular activities that you've done outside of school or in school or any question like that would be fine. Oh, Gwen, there's a question for you specifically.
Yeah, I do see this question. Yeah, I'll give you my email in the chat and you can totally reach out to me.
Mhm. Please, do I need a resume and cover letter as an aspirant to Boston University international student? Um, to Jose, you probably do need a resume. I wouldn't say to apply. I think Gwen, did you already answer this question? Is that what you were talking about earlier? Or I don't know. About the aspirant to Boston University as an international student. I think she mentioned it that you don't need a resume to apply to school. I don't know if she said that. I just want to read it to say I was downloading. Oh, stop sharing my screen. Okay, sorry. I do that. July. Oh, okay, I see you. Okay, great. All right. I don't think we missed any more questions. Um, oh, I don't. Did you answer Kenny's question, Gwen? For college applications, do you think adding extracurricular activities that are already on the activity section of Common App is being redundant? Did you answer that?
Yeah, so what I would
Oh,
say,
okay, cool.
what I said for that is usually for school applications, you don't have to include a resume, but I would say if you're applying to a job, you should definitely put your extracurriculars, even if they're in college applications. So yeah.
Well, if no one has any more questions, Gwen has put her email. I can put my email too if anyone has any questions to ask me later on. But, that's correct. Everyone. Yeah, you can email me or Gwen if you have any more questions about your resume or anything to do with school. Just reach out. Don't be afraid. We're also students like you, so we can relate to being a student. We know it's a hard knock life. So don't be afraid to reach out. And I hope you guys learned a lot from this. And I hope we answered most of your questions. So yeah. All right, everyone.